So what I'll do is I'll push record, right? And I'll just record the intro real time and just bring you in, man.
All right, sounds good.
What's up, guys, and welcome to Straight from the Chest podcast. My name is Justin Groth, and I'm your host on this personal development and growth podcast. Listen, if you're new to the show, I just want to take this time and I want to welcome you. Thank you for being here. And if this is your 50th or 250th time tuning back in, thank you for your continued listenership, support of the channel. It means a lot to me. And if you haven't done yet, please subscribe to Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, basically anywhere that there are podcasts, we are there. And if you haven't yet subscribed to YouTube, please do so as well. I would appreciate the support. And share the podcast on your Instagrams. At me at Justin Craig Roth. I'll be sure to re-mention you in my stories. And just get the word out about the podcast more so, because there's nothing better than just awareness over what we're doing over here, the guests we have on, their stories, etc. I know they help you. They benefit me even when I communicate with them, and I'm just so thankful for them. And speaking of guests, we have my good buddy here, Mario. What's up, brother?
Not much. How you doing, Justin?
Hey, man. It's good to see you, man. It's been years since we've actually sat down, had a conversation. And I will tell people, because they don't know yet, Mario used to be a fucking DJ.
Yeah.
And he actually mixed my first ever track for a bodybuilding competition that I had. And yeah. I came to you. I'm not even sure how I got linked up with you, man, but somebody told me about you and what you did. And I was like, man, this guy is perfect to mix some tracks. And I had an idea of mixing certain songs together. It was for a bodybuilding routine, a posing routine that I had. For those people who don't know, I used to competitive bodybuild and back in my 20s. And that's a pastime now. But I came tomorrow and he linked me up a hot track, and yeah, so that's how we met, man. I still
remember that track too.
Do you?
Yeah, it was DJ Khalid, Go Hard, and
yes,
then it had the Jurassic Park T-Rex.
Yes.
What is it, like his roar or whatever it was?
Yes.
And it went into the Go Hard.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you brought back memories from right there.
Everything,
dude. That was awesome, man. I mean. So you doing that made me feel a lot more confident going on stage, because I had something that was remixed and specially made for me. And it definitely helped me bring out my best on that stage. So man, I thank you for that again.
Yeah, you're
dude.
welcome.
That was
my pleasure to do it.
That was in 2009.
Yeah, because I remember when I did that, I had just gotten married. I was living in Napomo, and I remember having this little setup here and then trying to figure out, okay, where am I going to put all this stuff? And then you came to me with that. And then so I started with this new program that I was using and spliced up all the little pieces and then put it all together the way you wanted. I think we did it maybe about 4 or 5 times before we got it just right and that it was perfect for you. So
yeah, man, I was very thankful for that.
Yeah,
man.
It was fun doing it.
So how long had you been doing that when I came to you?
I started DJing back in about 2000. So years ago, I used to be a bartender at the Red Fox, just right across the street from here. Yeah. It's since been closed down, but I learned how to DJ there. And then my buddy who taught me how to DJ there was doing weddings and things. And so he asked me, he goes, hey, you want to help me do some weddings? And then we got the idea of, well, you know what? Why don't I just buy some equipment and then we can, just do different gigs. That way you're not losing any business. And it just kind of spawned from there. So even now up to this day, I still do a few DJ gigs for past clients who've used me in the past. I don't advertise for my DJ business at all. But this month in October, I got every single weekend booked from past clients,
Really?
Weddings and parties and other things. And I still get referral business from other people. So I don't advertise.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Do you like doing that as just a side gig, or would it be something that you would want to venture more into full time?
If I would have done it or wanted to do it full time, I think I would have already done it by now. But because, as I've, gotten older and progressed, my real passion was real estate. And so real estate takes up a lot of my time. To be a DJ and, have all kinds of equipment, keeping up with all the music, that's almost just a full-time job in itself outside of just doing those gigs. But as far as liking it, I really enjoy DJing. I love watching people go out there, have a great time. I can do a wedding and, see somebody's little grandma out there dancing to a song that she used to love when she was a kid. And so all of that type of stuff really brings me a lot of joy, just seeing everybody have a good time. There's even this one girl who works at Andrini's, and I DJ'd a party for her when she was like 13. And then years later, we start talking about, how she does stuff in the wedding business. And I said, oh yeah, I'm a DJ, because I didn't recognize her. And she goes, well, let me add you on Instagram. So she goes to my DJ page and adds me. And she goes, oh, my mom follows you. And I go, who's your mom? And she tells me her name. And I go, oh my God, you're Abigail. And, she calls herself Abby now. And I go, I DJ'd your party when you were 13. And she goes, oh my God, DJ Mario, we still talk about that party. And so just stuff awesome. Like that, where years later, people remember how much fun that they had. And so, that's what I like about doing it. I mean, you can make a lot of money DJing and all that stuff. And, the monetary benefits are there. But when people say how much fun that they had at that party from years back, that really, that making people happy is what makes me happy.
So what got you into real estate?
I actually always wanted to do real estate ever since I was about 7 years old. The craziest thing was I told this story at my 2020 installation when I was installed as president of the Pismo Association. But when I was 7 years old, I just always recalled this man coming to our apartment where we lived on. We were just right over here on 6th Street in Grover. And I one time asked my dad, I go, why is it every time he comes over, you always give him money? And so my dad goes, well, he owns this apartment and he's what's called a landlord. He goes, we don't own it. So in order for us to live here, we have to pay him what's called rent. And at that age, I'm like, I want to own houses and have people pay me rent. And so that's just kind of how it started. And then I would go and I would see those real estate books and those newsstands. And I was always looking at the houses that were for sale and things like that. And I would always kind of think, oh yeah, I can buy this house and I can get rent for all of these little places. And I just didn't know how to break into real estate, but I always watched those infomercials and I would try to buy those programs and follow what they were trying to teach. And I got a little disenfranchised with it because once you bought those programs, you had somebody calling you and trying to get you to spend thousands of dollars on their programs and, all this. And it wasn't what I really thought it was until about 2009 when I saw something else. I just ordered a book and then they called me. And so I ended up buying their program. And so when I started researching it, it finally clicked. I go, this is how you do it. And so I started putting some ads in the real estate section of Craigslist looking for other people who were investors. And I said, hey, let's put something together. Let's meet and see what you guys are doing. And so in 2010, we formed the Central Coast Real Estate Investors Association. And I started networking with all these other investors. And, so kind of like what I would see on TV, you can buy houses with no money down. I actually figured out how to do that. And it was actually a lot more simple than I thought it was. And so I did that a few times. I got some houses, put them under contract, and then I, flipped the contract right away to another investor and, made $5,000, $10,000 on some of those deals. And then I eventually did become a landlord, bought a couple properties out in Taft, which is a little town between here and Bakersfield. And that's just kind of how I started rolling in the investing side of it. And then I got my license in 2014.
So what does it look like for a real estate investor throughout the fiscal year in terms of like this market here? Mm-hmm. What are they, if they're a newbie, like they coming into real estate as a newbie, what can they expect to maybe sell if they're hitting all the marks, they're disciplined, mm-hmm. they're good at let's say they're good at their craft. Mm-hmm. They're not great, but let's say they're good. Mm-hmm. What can they expect to maybe make in that first year?
As an agent or an investor?
An agent.
As an agent, it just depends on, like you said, how disciplined are they? Some newbie real estate agents maybe only do 1 or 2 deals in their first year, and that was me. I mean, my first year I only did a couple of deals just because I was still trying to learn the business. Having a mentor in the real estate business is so important, and you got to have somebody who is very experienced, who's willing to teach you, spend the time with you to teach you. Now they may charge you a little bit, when you close those deals. But as you get experienced, if you're really good and you're on the grind, by your second year, you should be closing at least 5 to 10, if not more, depending on how much you want to grind. And at least your third to fourth year, you should be closing at least, 15 to 20 deals. And that's, a little bit better than average. As for a realtor, you can make a good living just doing those, especially with the price points we have here on the Central Coast. And then there's some agents who, as they've been an agent for a while, build teams around them within a brokerage, and they have other agents that, become a part of their team, and then they collectively work together. And, so the team leader can make a lot more money while he's helping these younger agents or newer agents. And then eventually they can expand out if they want to.
Interesting. So you would say if that person doesn't close any deals the first year, are they just not trying hard enough?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, they will get motivated when they see somebody close a deal and, they show up to the office. But sometimes some of the ones who work at other brokerages may not have that mentor or someone who's guiding them on how to do it. So they're trying to figure it out. Like, well, what do I do? What do I do? And that's why I have, some of the newer agents that I've met, I've recruited them to the brokerages I was at, because we were doing things where we could get them off and running right away, where we've got a list of people for them to make their phone calls. And they were required to make at least 20 to 40 phone calls every single day out of a database that could be as large as 3,000. And so you should be able to get through all of that. And then, doing open houses, procuring your own leads, and doing that every single week, and just grind. And I tell agents at other brokerages the same thing. It's you need to be not only calling leads that you get, but also creating your own leads by having these open houses. Go out knocking on doors like you're trying to sell Bibles, and say, hey, I'm a real estate agent. Here's a flyer. I'm doing an open house. Or are you looking to sell, or are you looking to buy? And, just things like that. And it works. It really does. And people think that's kind of outdated and that you should just only use the internet to advertise. But I think that if you don't do it the old school way too, in conjunction with the internet stuff, you're not going to be very successful leaving either one out.
You leave a lot on the table, right? When you omit the personal experience with somebody, right? Because people, they gravitate to energy, and they oftentimes will, their no might turn into a yes if it were in person, as opposed to over a phone, or not just seeing an ad on the internet or what have you. I mean, you're right. The old school method, even though it's more time consuming, is far better. It's just hard to scale that. You know what I mean? Like, that's why online works real well. Cold calling works pretty well too, because you can do a lot in a short amount of time, and it's a numbers game to some degree, right? Yeah,
and that's true. And, like just for an example, like hitting the pavement, knocking on doors. I had a listing over on the south end of Grover. I went around the neighborhood and knocked on some doors, invited people to my open house. I had 3 people show up to my open house from that neighborhood. A couple of them were just looky-loos. One of them was like, yeah, we want to sell. And so that ended up turning into a listing appointment. But some family things ended up changing where they just said they were going to stay. But, just like that, if I would have probably called them on the phone, they probably would have been, maybe not so welcoming, but they saw me, they took my flyer. I talked to them initially, and then they came to the open house. So that was my second face-to-face with them, that which led to the third face-to-face. And then, every time I called, they were picking up my phone call and talking with me. I talked to the guy about maybe 3 or 4 times before they said, the family health issue came up to where they weren't going to move after all. But, it's just being in front of people all the time. They see you face-to-face. They trust you a little bit more over just, somebody that they're going to click on the internet, and they don't know who they're going to get.
Right. This is going to be something that's a little bit, I don't know, might spark some debate with people, but fuck it. So basically, I've never seen a unattractive real estate agent ever. I've never seen one. I've never seen one that doesn't have something of a good look to them.
Well, thank you.
And be charismatic, etc. every time I meet and I've had a few on here, and you even in fact know them, all good looking people, man. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and I know people in my life that are real estate agents that have not been on a podcast, all good looking people. I've known people that want to get into real estate, all good looking people. Mm-hmm. Why is it that people that are into their looks and are coined by society more like a attractive person, why do they always end up? It's like singers. You never see a bad looking singer, mm-hmm. or at least I haven't, at least that I can, at the top of my head, think of. You never see a bad looking musician. Mm-hmm. You know, they're always in some realm or aspect attractive. Mm-hmm. What do you think is about that attracts attractive people to real estate? Is there anything? Because to be honest with you, the only thing that I could think of is that attractive people sell more. They mm-hmm. get more opportunities. They just, the way it is in life, man. You get more opportunities. You get more favor. People like you. Seems like right out the gate, they like you more, mm-hmm. unless they're intimidated by you or something, yeah. right? But it's like, that's the odd thing. It's like people that are better looking have advantages in life. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think...
it seems that way, at least.
I think it's just the confidence. People feel, okay, you know, I think they just get into real estate and it just happens to work out. But I've also seen some pretty attractive lady realtors who got into this business and thought that they were going to get by on their looks and failed miserably because they were just, you know, buy a house from me. And then when it came down to doing the work, they bombed them out. So... really, so looks can take you so far, but if you're not going to do the work, which I've seen some of them did not do the work, and they were out in less than a year.
Yeah. Well, there's also an element of like, you need to be able to, like you're saying, work, but you also need to be able to talk. Yeah. And you need to be able to make people comfortable with you or feel comfortable with you. And you need to be able to chameleonize around people and their moods, their emotions, or what have you, especially when it comes to, like, I'm assuming, selling their house, mm-hmm. something that they've spent so many years in, invested so much money into. It's hard for them to release that. It's like a car times 12. Mm-hmm. You know, it's so much harder, I would imagine. So dealing with their, I guess, ups and downs and peaks and valleys in their moods, etc., might be a hard thing. If you're not able to combat that or rather work around it, I mean, they might end up finding another agent, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's...
Yeah, and, you know, just I've seen some of the lady agents who have, you know, kind of used their assets to try to win over a listing. And they go to meet with the husband and wife, and the wife's like, we ain't working with her. You know, I don't want my husband looking down her blouse or anything. And then, you know, I come along and do, you know, very nice professional job. And they're like, yeah, we want to work with you because you present yourself in a professional manner rather than, you know, a provocative manner. And they just see that you're more focused on getting the job done for them over trying to show yourself off in a way.
Right. So. I could see that because they don't deem it as such a threatening thing, mm-hmm. you know? Yeah. Yeah.
It can go both ways.
Well, yeah. And in my business, it's the same thing. Like there's been, I don't want to get into it. There's been times where I've had females and then their husbands end up finding out that, like, for some reason they keep it from them, mm-hmm. right? They might keep training from their husband. And mm-hmm. then they find out, like, what's his bill here? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's training and then they look me up and mm-hmm. then it's like lights out.
Yeah. So you ain't working with him.
not all the time, but that has happened. In my fucking over a 12, 13 years of training, I don't know how long it's been. That has happened a few mm-hmm. times. And then, or they don't sign up and they come, and when they're in the consultation, everything is awesome. They want to close a deal and let me talk to my husband and go home. Then they call me, oh, I'm not going to be able to train. And they make up some lame excuse, bro. I've been in this business way too fucking long. I know what this is about. Yeah. Like everything was hunky dory at the consult. Mm-hmm. What changed? Yeah. Price point didn't change. Mm-hmm. But you knew what you're getting into. Yeah. You know what you can afford. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I went off on a tangent. It's fine. But like that happens, man. And when you make people feel comfortable, then the threat's not there or it's mitigated. Well, then there's not so much risk, right? But I guess it's different people, man. I mean, what have been some of the worst clients you've dealt with, man? Like, give me some of those stories.
Wow, worst clients. Let's see. I can't really think of like a worst client, but just some of the ones that I've had difficulty with were just the ones who I showed them a whole bunch of houses and they didn't like anything. And I tried to find them exactly what they were looking for in different areas. And, oh, we don't like that. We don't like that. And then they say, well, we're going to put our search on hold for a while. Then a month later, I find out they're working with somebody else and end up buying a house. And one of them was the one I had showed them. And I said, hey, I thought you didn't like this house. And, so, I don't know.
Do you see those people out in public?
Yeah.
After? Okay, so that's the conversation that's like the white elephant in the room when you approach that. How do you go about that?
Well, depending on how well I know them, I will say, hey, what happened? I showed you this house. You didn't like it at the time. But in other instances, if I didn't really know them that well, or they were just somebody who called off a sign call, I don't have that really that rapport with them from somebody I know for years to say, hey, what happened? Why didn't you use me? And be upset because at that time they're already being represented by somebody else. So I have to limit what I say to them. Because, I could get in trouble for, I could be interfering with another agent's business. But I just say, well, hey, congratulations. I'm sorry I couldn't help you with this. I'm sure the other agent's doing a really great job for you. And congratulations. And so I just have to leave it at that. But inside, I'm like, I just want to cuss them out and say, hey, I did the job for you. And then you go hook up with somebody else and wham, bam, and you're in escrow and purchasing your house. And
you almost sound like you're talking about a female right now.
Almost. Because you know what? Showing a client property and getting them to buy that house is almost like dating. You're getting to know these people. You're getting to know their wants, their needs, and their desires to find a place to live in. And when they don't stay with you and go with somebody else and they hit the jackpot, you're like, what?
What causes, because I know you have thoughts about this. Like, you're probably thinking, if you're anything like me, you're reflecting like, well, where did I go wrong there? Like, what was wrong with me? Why did I not close that person? So in what you've been able to manufacture in your own mind, what do you think are some of the likely possibilities as to why they went with somebody else?
I don't know, and I think that's probably something that I should ask them, and say, hey,
no.
What's
this
different?
Is what you think, not what it is. What you think it could be.
That's a tough one. I don't know what it could be. Just maybe at the time they weren't interested in that, and then all of a sudden they decided they were, and maybe they were embarrassed to call me back and say, hey, we're interested after all. I don't know. Maybe it was just we didn't vibe on some level, or maybe they just met another agent and decided they liked them better. That could be it. I don't know, because they don't ever tell me, we're not really happy with what you're doing. I'm driving them around all over the place and I'm doing everything I can for them. And and there's just some people, doesn't matter what it is. It could be in fitness, or it can be in real estate, or something else. Some people just aren't happy with anything. And so they might have gotten tired of me and decided to work with somebody else.
Yeah, because you don't strike me as the incompetent kind of real estate agent. So I would kind of venture off, and this happens with me too, man, because I'm not everybody's cup of tea when it comes to personal training. They just didn't like you. And that's the harsh reality that we all have to face, that there are going to be people in this world that no matter what you do, no matter how good you do it, no matter if you're by the books, you're crossing your T's, you're dotting your I's, and everything in between, it just doesn't matter, because who you are as a person, maybe even the way you look, they don't like it. And they're like, fuck this guy. They don't say it to you, but that's how they go. That's how humans deviate. They do it very inconspicuously, and they do it with zero confrontation typically. But you're left to wonder why. Well, 99% of the time, it's that. It's not because they got cold feet. Mm-hmm. These are the things that you want to realize, that you want to put in place, because it makes us all, as the service provider, feel better. Mm-hmm. Like, well, maybe it was just they are apprehensive. They're a little intimidated about this whole sale, this whole process, and they backed out. And then, like, when it came time, you know, John Smith came walking through the door at the right time, right place, right time kind of situation. Totally coincidental. Mm-hmm. No, that's not what it is. Mm-hmm. Like, theory will tell you that, or your mind will kind of venture off and want you to believe that narrative. Mm-hmm. People are very simple, man. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that propels anybody in life typically is not just centered around their competency, but centered around their people skills and how they interact and interface with people. Mm-hmm. You know, you heard that saying, you are, or I'm sorry, how's it go? You're only who you know, or you're only going to get what you, or it's who you know. That's the fucking saying. I can't believe, I don't know why I couldn't think of that right now. It's
not what you know, it's who you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yes, right? But most of us, the harder workers will be like, no, I'll make it on talent and work ethic alone. Mm-hmm. Yes, you'll make it very far. You'll make it farther than most will. But if you know the right people, you can go from, I'm just going to use this as an illustration, millionaire to billionaire. If you know the right people, they'll take it to that. Or let's not say billionaire. Let's say you're a multimillionaire, 5 millionaire. You'll go from with just work ethic and grind alone to work ethic, grind, and knowing people, 200 million. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the difference is drastic, but it is both, right? You can make it far not knowing the right people, but that's what we talk about. That's why I go back to looks. Looks help extravagantly in this pursuit, man. Mm-hmm. Because, and it's not to say you have to be only centered around your looks. No, you're putting the cart before the horse here. It's about looks, aka image. Mm-hmm. Image is a lot. It's how people see you, how they remember you, etc. So if image is not at the forefront, sadly, it's sad to say that the way we operate, except for the very few people that only look at somebody for what they know, nothing more, nothing less. Mm-hmm. The exception doesn't make the rule, okay? So even though those people exist, exception doesn't make the rule. Generally speaking, the majority populace only or will do the best with people that they find attractive and have a good image. Mm-hmm. Those people will close all the time. Mm-hmm. Case in point, someone like Grant Cardone. I know you like him. You went to his 10X conference. Yep. Brad Lee, another one. Mm-hmm. Good looking guys, even well into their fucking 80s. I don't know what they are. No, they're not. They're very good looking guys, and they're like what, 50s? 40s, 50s?
Grant Cardone is in his 60s now.
Oh, 60s. See? Yeah, looks so good.
Early 60s.
Motherfucker looks like he's in his 50s to me. So, yeah, you got someone in his 60s. Bradley, I think, is like high 40s maybe, or 50. I don't think he's high 40s. Still, they pay attention to their image. Mm-hmm. What they put in their body, working out, face, all of it, hair, all of it, man. It makes the difference. But when you don't, you leave some on the table, right? Mm-hmm. You just do, man. And you can't do anything about, like, I can't make myself taller. Mm-hmm. You can't make yourself taller.
I wish I
We
could.
only have what we have, bro, right? So capitalize on what the fuck we're born with. Mm-hmm. Like, that's it. But that will enable you to go much further than if you just predicate everything, your move, on grind and discipline. Although very, very beneficial behaviors and very beneficial principles to hold true. Mm-hmm. But image is another pillar that needs to be at the forefront. Mm-hmm. Like, it just does, man. And it's the world that we live in. If we were living thousands of years ago, that wouldn't be the case, man. It'd be all about effectiveness. How effective are you at hunting and gathering, killing, you know what I mean? Protecting. Yeah. But we live in this 3D world now that I don't know if that makes any sense, but we live in this world that is so predicated on, I guess, the imagery and facadial nature of a person that it's hard to dismiss and or discount. You just can't.
Yeah.
So you got to make yourself the best, man.
Yeah, especially with social media now. Everything is about image on social media, and there's so many different platforms that, you know, people are following, and it's what's that image that you're putting out there for yourself? Is it your personal image or your, you know, in my case, business image? And, you know, sometimes I kind of mix a little bit of both in there because I also want people to see the personal side of me, not just the salesman who's out there trying to push to sell houses. I want to show, you know, my funny side and then show my business side too.
Yeah, I've seen that. And you're great with the group shots. Posting, and here's one thing I will give to your credit, man. You're very, very good at putting other people up, pedestalizing other people, you know, like as a camaraderie and in a communal effort. You know, you're very good at tagging people, other realtors, putting them up on your platform. That's really, really cool, man. It's admirable because, you know, there's some people that they view it as only competition, and they're like, no, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna put someone else out there. And in the event that one of my clients sees that lady and they think she's more attractive than me, and they choose to go with her, you know, because there's, I don't know, maybe some other agenda at bay with that person, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times that happens.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, I worked with one agent in particular. She was new. Excuse me. And she was having trouble with people that would call her and say, oh yeah, we want to see a house, but let's go out to coffee first. And she was getting pretty annoyed with it. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And people just, all these men are calling me, trying to get me to go to coffee with them. Then they don't even want to bother to go see the house. They just want to hang out. And I said, well, why don't you just take me with you? Because I was training her in a way. I mean, she came to me because she was having trouble at, not really trouble, but she was just having a hard time, you know, getting going in the real estate world. And she was also a Grant Cardone follower. And when I met her, I was doing an open house, and she saw my backpack. It's at 10X. And she goes, I want to get to know you. And so she ended up joining our brokerage. And then that was the trouble she was running into, was just people would see her picture on Instagram or whatever it is, you know, promoting the sale of these houses. And so she would get people calling her for the wrong reasons, just wanting to hang out with her. And so we kind of worked through it a little bit, you know, did some, you know, ways that we could, you know, work around that to where they weren't just bothering her for that. And I've since left that particular brokerage, but from what she's told me lately is that it is getting better, and she has closed some deals. So I'm super proud of her. And so is getting better at that and being able to handle those types of people that are trying to come to her to just, you know, talk with her for the wrong reason.
How does she go about that?
She just goes, no, I don't do any coffee. If you want to go see this house, then you need to send me your pre-qualification letter. You need to come by the office. We need to get a copy of your driver's license and this and
all
that.
Business.
Yeah, and part of that too has also been recommendations from our California Association of Realtors, National Association of Realtors, just for agent safety as well, because there have been agents who have been the victim of violence, and some even have been killed. Just because of, you know, their image, and people trying to get to them or get close to them. And so, you know, especially our lady agents. And so those are safety protocols that have been implemented to keep agents safe.
I had no idea that existed. Man.
Yeah. Real estate agents are the number 3 most targeted for violent crimes. Hospital, law enforcement are number 1 and 2, and real estate agents are number 3 nationally.
Jeez. Have you heard about any of those things firsthand? Like any of those stories firsthand, people you know?
There's been a couple incidences in Santa Maria. Nothing really came of it, but there was situations that it was enough for the associations to alert the other ones to let them know that something was happening. There's one particular person in Arkansas who goes on as kind of like a speaking tour talking about what happened to his mother. She was an agent in Arkansas, and she was murdered by somebody who just thought, oh, well, she's just too successful and pretty, let's set her up. And I don't really want to go into the detail of what happened to her because it's pretty gruesome. But he speaks all over the country to other places, like the National Association of Realtors conventions, conferences, and talks about realtor safety and things like that. And then I even got into a situation almost in Pismo where I had a listing, and some guy comes in with his mountain bike, and he tried to bring his mountain bike in. I'm like, hey, no, keep that thing out here, because this is a pretty luxurious condo that I had listed. And he was kind of grubby looking, but I don't like to judge people, because sometimes some of the worst dressed people got the most money and they're ready to spend. And so he kind of comes in and he's like, well, do you have a flyer on the property? And, yeah, here you go. And then he's just kind of starts wandering around, and I could immediately tell that he didn't know what he was really, looking for or what. And then he goes upstairs, and then I don't hear him for a while, and I'm just kind of like peek around, look up the stairs, and he's just sitting there on his phone doing something. And I just kind of waited for a second, and then he's still playing with his phone. Then I start thinking weird stuff in my head. Is he calling his buddies to come over here to rob me or what? So I finally kind of went up halfway up the stairs. I go, do you have any questions? And he's like, oh, no, I don't have any questions, and just kind of mumbled something else. And I said, okay, well, I'm getting ready to close up, so I need you to come downstairs. And then I just kind of moved out of the way and, made way for him to walk out the door. And he just kind of lollygagged about getting out. And then finally he left, and then he kind of stood in the courtyard and was still on his phone. But now that he was outside, I was just able to close the door and lock it so that he wouldn't be able to come back in. And then I saw him go back downstairs, and so I went back out, and then I looked over the balcony where he was at, and he was still on his phone. I don't know what he was doing, but that could have been a situation where, he could have been calling somebody and said, yeah, this guy's alone, let's rob him or whatever. So I don't know, but you never know. And so you just have to be prepared for stuff like that.
Yeah, man. Well, that's when your Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills come in very fucking handy. Yep. So you've been doing some of that. You've been doing some of that BJJ shit, right?
Yeah, and some Muay Thai and a little bit of Shotokan karate.
So let's talk about that, man. So, and you also go to the gym, right? You go to the Fitness 19 or Planet Fitness? Which one do you go to?
Fitness 19.
You still have Fitness 19, okay.
Yeah.
So how many days do you go to BJJ? Or, I'm sorry, Muay Thai.
Muay Thai is about 2 times a week, usually Monday and Wednesdays. So Monday is kind of like the long day. So we do Muay Thai for an hour, and then the second hour we do some stuff with Shotokan karate. We do some Eskrima, which is the stick fighting. And then we also practice knife defense as well, because that's probably the most common form of attack, is somebody coming at you with a knife. So we practice with all of that type of stuff. And then the BJJ is, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, which I've kind of scaled back on that a little bit, because I've been concentrating more on the stand-up fighting, which is I'm better at that. And I don't really, I know sometimes most fights will go to the ground eventually, but I've been a lot more focused on the Muay Thai and the karate training, because I think it's more practical.
Yeah, BJJ is a lot of rolling, right? I mean, a lot of grappling, rolling. Yeah, plus you gotta worry about like ringworm and shit, right? On the mats.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not with that, man. Like, I mean, do you wear a gi when you do BJJ?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're probably gonna omit a lot of that ringworm and stuff, but.
Yeah, and the other thing I know that jiu-jitsu is really good, but most of the stuff, when you're wearing a gi, it's more for tournament competition, that type of stuff. If you're out on the street, throw all that gi stuff, out the window, because not everybody's out there wearing long sleeves or wearing a gi. Right. And like you see in the karate movies where everyone's out there fighting and they all got their gis on. That's just not going to happen in the real world. But some of it is, certain moves in jiu-jitsu are good to know, but mostly I would rather be on my feet standing and throwing those punches and kicks if I have to. If it goes to the ground, I know enough to where the average person probably isn't going to know how to defend themselves if they're on the ground.
So what initially got you into that?
So that's a little bit of an interesting story. Something that not too many people know about is I had met a guy at Starbucks. Everything was really cool, and then he started getting a little weird with me, and then just kind of started to harass me a little bit, to the point that he was even threatening me and saying, "I'm going to kick your ass." And
was this for? Was he a buyer? Like, was this for real estate?
No, actually, it's when I first got into real estate, and but he was just a weirdo at Starbucks. I'm just sitting there reading a book. I was dressed up, and I was talking to a couple of people, and then he engaged me in conversation, and then all of a sudden the conversation just got weird, and then he just started getting real aggressive, and even to a couple of other guys like, "Hey man, calm down. What are you mad at Mario for? Mario's cool."
Like how so?
He just was sitting there and was like, "Oh, you're just reading that book to get attention, and you think you're better than me," and just started saying some weird stuff. And so I just like, okay, I gotta go. And then the next day I saw him, and then he was like, "Hey buddy, are we still friends?" And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And for like 4 or 5 days, he just started being like this. And finally I said, "You know what, dude, leave me alone. You're being really weird." And then he started, "Well, I'm going to kick your ass," and all this other stuff. So long story short, I had a few other run-ins with this guy over the course of 3 years. Same thing, just trying to start a fight with me. And so during the pandemic, when the gyms were closed, I was, walking the beach a lot, and I ran into him over and over again. And he started, same thing. And then finally one day I'm walking, and then he pulls out his phone and he just starts recording me just because he's weird. And I lost it. And I said, "You know what? I'm sick and tired of you harassing me. Leave me the F alone." And I punched him. And I didn't punch him in the face, but I punched his hand that was holding his phone. So I ended up going to jail. And so I thought, if this goes any further to the point where I've got to serve a certain amount of time, I better know something. So that's when I started getting into the MMA stuff, just because if I ended up serving some time, I wanted to be able to. And so that's why I got more, got into the self-defense and training and jiu-jitsu, and then doing the Muay Thai as well.
Interesting. When you start down in some fashion, did you leave that? I'm assuming it's a dojo, right?
They don't really call Paragon a dojo, but
just
gym.
You guys call it gym. When you left that gym, did you feel more confident after doing that?
Not really. I'm like, wow, I don't know anything.
So when did that confidence start to spark with you?
Just showing up every single day and knowing that even though I was, getting into those armbar submissions or, any type of thing that some of these guys were doing, and I was losing every single match, but I was learning something from every single match too. And so knowing the mistakes that I made and then learning from that to the point where I started winning some of the little competitions that we were having in there, or sometimes they were just draws against guys that had beaten me before. So that's when I started thinking, okay, I'm getting good at this and I'm getting a little bit better. And then I would see some of the Muay Thai guys going in there and starting to train. There's only like 4 or 5 guys at the time. And so then I decided, I want to get into Muay Thai as well and learn some boxing skills, kickboxing skills, and just some of that type of stuff too. So that's been a lot of fun. I did that. I started doing that last March of 2021 when I got into the Muay Thai, and I've got 2 really great instructors, and I progressed a lot in that. But when was it? It was sometime earlier. No, I'm sorry. It was actually just June, just a couple of months ago, where they actually tested me. It was a 2.5 hour test where they put me through all of these different things to where I had to do 130 push-ups on my knuckles. I had to stand in a kibidashi position where you're kind of almost like in a half squat for 15 minutes. And then 6 guys took turns beating the crap out of me when it was grappling or stand up. And I made it through all of those tests and everything. And I progressed to get my gray belt in that particular, when in our school. So yeah, my confidence has really gone way up from what it used to be, where, when I was younger, I got bullied. And I didn't, was taught, don't fight back, because.
Who said that?
That was just the way I was brought up, in kind of a Christian household where, you're supposed to turn the other cheek and, violence doesn't solve anything. And so I had a hard time when I was younger, when, growing up and kind of getting pushed around. And, I was afraid to fight back because I was afraid of the consequences, oh, you're going to get in trouble and all this other stuff. And, you get into a fight on the beach and I got in trouble, got sent to jail. But you know what? I felt really good about that. I'm like, that guy's never going to screw with me again.
Was your mom or dad or both the ones that peddled that sort of initiative for you to not fight back?
Both. And my dad, he grew up in Oceano, and his whole life, him and his brother, my uncle, I mean, they were always fighting. People, back then in the 70s, things were a lot tougher, a lot of racism, and people didn't like Mexicans, so they were always fighting people in Pismo, things like that. And so he grew up having that kind of rough and tough life, and didn't want that for us. Yeah. And so my parents are devout Christians, religious, and live a peaceful life. Don't do things like that. But in the real world, and what I had to discover for myself is that sometimes you have to stand your ground and you have to hit back. Otherwise, you're just going to keep getting kicked down and kicked down and kicked down. And probably up until I turned 40, that kind of changed for me, where I said, I got to start doing things for myself. I can't keep doing this because I've been getting pushed around a lot, and I started to push back. And I think that's why, especially in real estate now too, it translates into that, to where you can't let other agents, no matter how experienced they are, push you around and control the deal. You got to fight for your client. And that's where that confidence comes in, is that you got to stand your ground and don't let other people just have their way with you. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. And that the BJJ teaches you that sort of when it comes to like the mental aspects, right? Mm-hmm. Being more grounded, more stoic, and then that translates into more confidence. And that's just what you end up exuding to the person you're interfacing with or the person you're combating with. Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, I can't really speak on it because I've never done BJJ. I just listen to people that have done it, and I know people that have done it firsthand, and they all kind of have the same feedback. It's all pretty much commensurate in regard of it teaches you. It's more of a mental therapy, sort of mental, I guess, progression, if that makes any sense. I don't know. Maybe you could elaborate on that. But so you learn the fighting skills, but also you learn how to better control yourself, because you're constantly, obviously you have this threat in front of you, and you don't want to overreact, but you don't want to underreact. Mm-hmm. You have to react just right, the kind of the Goldilocks rule, or else they might get ahead of you. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's constant exchange of quiet dialogue between you and that other person when you're fighting. And you have to be able to compute well and not think so much with the amygdala, and be more rational with your approach. Otherwise, you might get handled, mm-hmm. right? You mm-hmm. might lose. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem. Mm-hmm. We don't want to lose. But, the thing that I admire a lot about you is the fact that you came into this approach with fighting and all that in a very genuine way, an authentic way. It wasn't like I want to be a badass, so let me learn how to fight. Mm-hmm. Or I want to be a badass because I want to build my social cred or street cred. Mm-hmm. It was like, well, I got a threat, real life threat, and so I have to now ante up, so to speak, so that doesn't happen again, or I can mitigate the risk entirely, mm-hmm. or more so, rather. Yeah. So, and like I said, I admire that, because you didn't just come out there like a man, like being all masculine, like which is not a bad thing, by the way, not a bad thing, not against masculinity. Okay. But you didn't predicate it on the terms of aggression. It was more so like, this shit happened. Don't want it to happen again. So this is what I got to put in place in order for it not to happen again, or for me to mitigate the risk. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And, and for most people who know me, I'm not an aggressive person. And most people would say that I'm pretty mild tempered. And when I told a couple of friends that I had gotten arrested for misdemeanor battery, they'd go, "What? You're the nicest guy I know." And I said, "I know." But, still, it was just, that was a situation. The cops went by the law, and it didn't matter that I told them that the guy had been harassing me and threatening me for the last 3 years. It said, "Well, you hit him and he's got you on video."
Yeah. I kind of ties your hands there. You said that you're a nice guy, and I would absolutely concede to that. How far has that gotten you in your life? Like, I'm talking to a real nice guy here, okay? On your end, talking to me, I'm nice sometimes.
Yeah.
So let me understand what the nice guy all the time, which is you, gets.
That's a pretty loaded question, because I know there's a lot of stuff out there about the nice guy syndrome, or just a generally nice guy. Now, I will say that I have been a victim of my own niceness, and I have conceded a lot of things in my life to be a people pleaser. And again, when I hit 40, I realized there was a lot of things that needed to change. And I think people that have that nice guy syndrome, in a way, also lack confidence. And so I think that's why I haven't gotten as far up to that point before I started selling real estate, that, I was struggling. I really was. And just finally had to get to that point where I, again, standing my ground on certain issues. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going to compromise this time. This belongs to me. This is mine. If you want it, come and take it. Yeah, and I'm going to make it hard for you if that's what you're going to try and do. But also the other part about being a nice guy is generally just treating other people with respect. I don't go around just, shoving my way through a line, or, cutting in front of people at Starbucks, things like that. I treat everybody with respect. It doesn't matter who they are. It could be a, little 80-year-old lady, or it could be a, hot 20-year-old, doesn't matter. Or, an old man. It doesn't matter. If I see somebody, struggling, holding something, and they're trying to walk through the door, I'll open the door for them. That's being nice. That's being neighborly. So in that way, I'm also a nice person, where I'm not going to just let somebody deal with, whatever issue they have. If I can help them, I'm going to help them, just because I want to help people. And I think it's everybody's responsibility to help and build other people up when they can. If they see a situation, go help somebody.
So I think that this is my take on it. I think that sometimes niceness gets conflated for honor, respect, noble, like the noble, honorable thing to do. I don't think those things are nice. I think that they're honorable, noble, and respectful. And there's a stark difference between the two. Like, if you're going to put everything under the umbrella of niceness, right? Nice, being kind, being complimentative, etc. Okay. But then that's one umbrella. Then the other umbrella is everything that's honorable, noble, respectful, responsible as a man, protect, like you're right as a man and moving through society, which should be honorable, noble, respectful, responsible, courageous, brave, confident, etc. Okay? That's under another umbrella.
Yeah.
Would you say that you can be those things and by default express kindness or niceness as a result of being those things? Because those character traits are, now, by the way, you can go the other direction. you can be all those things, but you can't be all those things and be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah.
So those things inherently make you a good guy, someone to admire, respect, trust. Right? So yes, that to me, that's the pursuit of a man. I'm not saying that you don't put niceness in there. You don't tether that in. But sometimes that just kind of comes out on its own expression or in its own expression when you portray those other character traits. Because I've never met a man or a woman, anybody, but this is a man. So this is more of a man's quest to be an honorable man or to be a man is to have those character traits that I just listed off. I've never seen that man not be respected as a result of being those things. And on top of that, been talked about in a negative way or with any negative connotation attached to his name. I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I'm saying that that's typically not going to happen. You know, if you take someone like, for example, Jocko Willink, I'm sure you're familiar with Jocko Willink. Okay, Navy SEAL. Okay, right. He is a very strong man, represents all those elements that I just kind of laid out, or those characteristics rather. Have you ever known Jocko to come off as a prick? Have you ever known Jocko to come off as a dick? Like, I would never introduce any of my friends to that guy. I would never want to do lunch with him. I'd never want to have coffee with him.
I don't think of him that way. I think some people might who are intimidated by a
okay,
person.
But that's a feeling.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
we're exactly. We're not going to conflate feelings with reality here.
Yeah.
That's a feeling that somebody gets. Fine. If you interpret that person or your feelings rather interpret that person as too much.
Yeah.
That's on you, man. You might be missing out on a very, very well-endowed, able man. And by endowed, I don't mean dick. I mean fucking an endowed man in terms of all the characteristics that he possesses.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly. Yeah, I really like
Ladies, don't go. Your mind's in the gutter. Okay?
They're gonna look him up on YouTube.
Yeah, no, huh?
No, but no, Jocko Willink. I mean, I love his deliveries, his messages that he puts out there, and I listen to quite a few of his podcasts on a regular basis. And, you know, I learned a lot from him. And so a lot of these Navy SEAL guys who've turned out to be, motivational speakers. I actually know one personally, Ray Cash Care. And I mean, this guy, just all those people that come out of the Special Forces community and are teaching other people to, some of the disciplines that they've learned from being in Special Forces and applying it in their lives. It's like, wow. I mean, they really get to the point. They don't dance around anything or try to make anybody feel good. It's like this and it's like that. And if you don't like it, then go back to your cute little life. Goodbye. And that's what I respond to, that stuff like that. And it gets me to think, okay, wait a minute. I'm at the gym and I'm lifting weights and I'm just thinking, I'm only on 8 and I'm going to give up. And then I hear those guys saying one more, and okay. And I put that extra effort in there because I hear their voices in my head from all of the stuff I've listened to. So it motivates me when I hear them talking and then apply it in life.
Yeah, I think that a lot of men could benefit from that kind of self-imposed narrative that they place in their head willingly. Because no one's going to make you do the reps. No one's making you go to the gym. No one's making you eat a certain way. No one's making you go out and run. No one's making you do any of this. You choose to do it because you want to be better. And that's the end game, period. Be better. And more people need to enforce that on themselves. Because otherwise, like you said, go back to your cute little life. It's very easy to go back to the cute, comfortable life. It's very easy to not impose a demand on yourself and set your standards higher. It's very easy to go and just be mediocre.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people in general have mediocre dreams. I just never met anybody with them. I'm not saying they don't exist, but anybody that I've ever met has a dream. And typically that dream Not typically. Let me erase that. Try again. That dream is never mediocre, man. Mm-hmm. It's never mediocre. It's always something that is worthy of bragging rights if it's ever achieved. Although they would never brag about it because that's not the person they are. But you get my point. Mm-hmm. It's worthy of that. Nobody has a dream that's just worthy of regular feats in life. Mm-hmm. No one. Because then it's not a dream.
Yeah.
It's just something that you could do tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It's just easy, you know? And nothing ever that's dreamed is going to be easy.
Yeah.
But because it's dreamed or dreamt, it seems like it's so hard and it's so out in the ether of possibility that it's just not even possible. Mm-hmm. But the point is, look, you got into real estate because you wanted to be a landlord. Like you wanted real estate because you wanted to make money for sure. You wanted to be financially free for sure. You wanted to help people for sure. And that's the reason why you're successful, because you do help people and you are becoming more financial free as the years pass by. Mm-hmm. But if you just kind of played your hand at this thing in a regular way and didn't apply discipline, didn't go out and show houses, didn't have a mentor, didn't take it seriously, then nothing would come of it, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd still be serving tables if I were doing that. So, and it's funny because a lot of people who get into real estate still have a secondary job, and I get it up to a certain point. If you're going to keep that secondary job and then try to do real estate on the side, you're never going to be successful at real estate because you have this other job that's taking up all your time. And, you know, real estate, it's a full-time gig. And, when I first got started in real estate, I did have a secondary job just to try to, be able to pay those, expenses that I had in real estate until I really got it going. But I got to the point in 2019 where I had all my debt paid off and I still had 3 or 4 more deals that were coming up that were going to be closing. And I said, you know what? I don't need to work that job anymore. And I was at a conference down in Anaheim where the main speaker was telling us to envision stuff and what's holding us back. And I said, that job is holding me back. And when I get back home tomorrow, I'm giving them my 2-week notice. And so Labor Day weekend was my last weekend at that restaurant job, and I haven't had a job since then. Just doing real estate.
Good for you, man.
So
Good for you. You do what you have to do in order to get the wheel rolling, or the ball rolling rather. But it's like, at some point, you're right. You have to release it completely.
Yeah. Because
otherwise, you have these boats on deck that you can take out to offshore. But if you are stuck on shore, no boats, well, it's a different story then.
Yeah.
And the threat becomes real. And oftentimes, I've actually, more often than not, people respond favorably to the fact that if there is no plan B, they don't have any more boats. They respond more favorably because it's just the way that we're neurologically wired. When there's a threat, we oftentimes chameleonize in ways that we're not even capable. We didn't think we were capable of in the first place. And that's why I tell a lot of people to go venture out into things that are not known for you, that you don't really understand the possibilities of, or understand what's going to lay at the end. Because the point is, you need to immerse yourself into something that you find meaningful and valuable, and ride that fucking train, man. If you do not, you'll never really see what this could be. And if you end up like, I just feel like I have to quit, I have to turn back because things aren't working out in my favor, etc. Well, that's just a part of the process. And you have to keep going, because this is something that could be something of legacy for you. This could be the thing that people know you by. This could be the thing that could inspire, motivate others to do something that they never thought they could do. So it's not just you. There are other people that are waiting for you to succeed. Really. Like, they're waiting for you to succeed even though they don't know it. Because you're going to be able to give them the impetus to do it on their own. And so by you taking out that crux, so to speak, from underneath you, that job that was pedestalizing you in the meantime and giving you a little bit more of a disposable income. You laid everything on the line for what you're really, really passionate about. And that means everything. And that's admirable, and that's honorable, and that's noble of you to do. And that's going to speak volumes to people that know you, know your story, find out about you, how you came into this, etc. When they know that, because that may be what they need to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And really what I like to do is, I do what I do because I like it. I love it. And yeah, I want to make a lot of money in this business, but I also want to inspire people and let them know that if you want the same thing, that it can be done. Because, I'm just a regular Joe. I didn't come from great wealth or anything like that. And I never really had a business mentor when I was growing up. It was something that I knew I wanted to do. I always wanted to do it, and I found a way to do it. And if I can help somebody else who is looking for that same thing, be on a path to bettering themselves, I'm going to lend them a helping hand and say, look, here's what I did, and here's how I can help you, or here's a path for you to follow. And that's what I want to do, is inspire people.
I love that, man. Well, for those of people that are listening and they want to reach out to you, they want to take you up on that offer, tell them where they can find you, man.
I'm all over social media, so you can find me on Instagram, Mario Estrada Realtor. You can also find my DJ page, Jammin' Entertainment, which is on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. I think it's Realtor Mario 805 on TikTok, and Facebook, Mario Estrada.
Are there any underscores with those handles?
Yeah, on Instagram, there's underscores between my first and last name, and then my last name and Realtor. There's an underscore between Jammin' and Entertainment on Instagram as well. No underscores on TikTok.
Got it. People, give them a holler, man. Well, thanks, Mar. I want to thank you for doing this, man. Give me your time. It means a lot to me, and I'm sure the listeners very much appreciated you, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. This was fun.
Cool. Done.
Awesome.